Threads has recently reached 300 million users on its platform, which is big. That's a big accomplishment. Don't get me wrong. If I had 300 million people on my platform, that would be insane. But what really makes a platform stand out when it comes down to social media? This is a question that I have, especially when it relates to trying to create something new or creating a new space online for people to interact with one another that doesn't just feel directly like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, I guess, Blue Sky, whatever it may be, like these areas where there's something super, super common beneath each one, which is the fact that there's a search function, there's a feed, there's an algorithm, there's user-generated content, and for the most part, it's pictures, videos, and text posts. Now, whether or not text posts, pictures, or videos are going to be the primary source of what you're seeing, obviously that varies platform to platform, and what the algorithm prefers varies platform to platform. Even when you think about YouTube right now as it is primarily a video platform, which is starting to kind of lean into that idea of text posts or sharing images, so on and so forth, with the community tab as a creator. TikTok, of course, is one of those standout platforms that has just, for whatever reason, the largest user base you could even think of if you were to pop in and then all of a sudden be put in front of people as a creator. And granted, I think that kind of boils down to how that algorithm works and how exactly they're sharing your content and putting it in front of people. Now, when it comes down to the type of content that we're sharing on there, it's more so short form. You're looking at live streams. You're looking at sometimes long form content that might actually bring people in. Or it might just be advertising for people who are doing drop shipping or honestly just trying to get products out the window. You know what I mean? I think still to this day, TikTok is one of those platforms that's a little bit of a hot pot when it comes down to things boiling over for content creation or people jumping over to it because they think they're going to make some money on the platform. Now, if you think about the user base and people actually watching videos on the platform, that's still growing. With all these platforms, that is still something that's growing. But again, what I'm very curious about is this idea of creating a space that stands out from all these standard content places. Like if I wanted to make a platform where you can still engage with people the same way that you would from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, so on and so forth, but do something different to make it stand out to a new user, what would that actually look like? Because if you think about Meta and TikTok, all these different, even YouTube, you can link products, you can do all this, that, and the third. You have a literal marketplace on your social media platform. And when it comes down to creating something that stands out from that, there's not a ton of things else that you can do with all these platforms in mind, including things like Twitch, Pinterest. Don't want to forget about like Quora Digest or like even go way back Yahoo Answers, like these places where you're able to ask questions, explore, live stream, so on and so forth. Like there are so many different social media platforms out there. How do you actually create something new that's going to stand out? And I think I had mentioned Blue Sky earlier, which is a very new platform that is basically Twitter. I mean, the CEO or the owner / founder of Twitter is the person who made Blue Sky. And so in that sense, it's like, y'all, you pretty much just duplicated what you had before. Granted, it's not owned by a big old corporation and you're not necessarily having as much of a controlled algorithm or controlled output as far as what you're seeing on your feed. I think it's still a situation of like, how do you make it stand out to a point where people are really going to flock and migrate to your platform if we're already comfortable with what's happening on these other apps? Even if not all of it is in our favor as far as the algorithm goes, how do you make something that's really going to push someone in the direction of this new place or this new identity of what is a social media platform? What is that relationship between the average user experience, aka the consumer, the CEO, or the executive director or founder, the team that puts together the app or the platform that you are using, and the content creator themselves who's giving this user-generated content to the platform to drive more interaction and more engagement just overall on that platform. The reason I'm thinking about this in the first place is because in the music community, it's such a thing where you're trying to explore how to connect musicians to the people that they actually need to be connected to. And there's been a few different attempts at doing this. Like there's an app called Gigmor, there's Side Door, and there's a few other things that are not coming to the top of my mind at the moment, but those two in particular, looking at one, the connectivity piece of getting artists to engage with venues, promoters, so on and so forth, and then another where you can actually just have a database and book musicians. That's a big thing. Now, Gigmor has a bit more of a social media approach, whereas Side Door is looking at it more from a lens of like, hey, list what you're doing here and we're going to help you get booked, or we're going to help you find a venue to perform in. Both of these platforms have excellent ideas behind what they're doing and excellent execution as far as what they're trying to accomplish. From a quick glance, what I noticed the problem is that there aren't enough users to make the app or platform, whatever you want to describe it as, that successful as far as what their endeavors are looking to do, especially if you're looking from a worldwide or national perspective, even regional. This is why the question exists. If you are a musician, if you are an artist, if you are anybody in any job field, and all of a sudden there's an app that is supposed to connect you to the people who are going to help you progress further in your career, get you in front of people to possibly make more connections in the future and network and things of that nature, what's going to make you join that platform versus stay where you feel comfortable? You know what I mean? Like, you have to look at it from that perspective of the person themselves. Is it really the algorithm? Is it really the algorithm where you're just scrolling and being fed information or things relating to your interests, your occupations, so on and so forth, that's keeping you on the platform versus trying to jump over to something else that's really going to help you? Or is the app that's going to help you not capturing everything that you actually want as a user? That's the hard part when it comes down to even trying to brainstorm and develop something for a new platform or a new social media place. The actual fundamental process of getting someone to jump over from one place to another, that's a psychological thing that I don't even know where to start analyzing. Like, for example, I remember even being younger and learning about the reward system and how that works, where like if we do a certain input, we hope or expect a certain output based off of what we've been taught to expect by previous experiences. Or there's something so grand that you receive as an output from an input where it's like, oh snap, I need that again. You know what I mean? So like when it comes down to that crucial piece on the internet or on social media or on a platform that's supposed to help you, how do you get that same reward? Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna backtrack. I feel like I might have just answered my own question. Because with the reward system, what you need is a output that is going to satisfy you or your expectations based off your previous experiences. And now when I think about long-term success in any field or any occupation or even just personal goals, whatever it may be, if we're looking at this from purely a progress standpoint, we are very accustomed to immediate gratification based off the platforms that we use today. So if we're talking about something like Gigmor or Side Door when it comes to musicians, there's not necessarily immediate gratification because there's a process that goes into booking. There's a process that goes into making a connection and actually following up and creating a relationship with a promoter or an artist if you're trying to collaborate. There is an actual process that has to happen in order for those things to really stand out and make sense for the person engaging with that person or entity or whatever it may be. And that's not necessarily instant gratification. Even when I think about a platform like LinkedIn, there's still an element of gamifying networking almost. Because when you think about building connections, if you see someone who's posting and you're like, man, I really want to connect with that person, go ahead, press the connect button. It's up to them to accept it now. And that's just about it, where that lies. Now, the next steps are up to you as far as whether or not you want to actually message or reach out to this person and have a conversation. But again, that gamification piece of networking is kind of what that is now that I think about it. Like, that's kind of what that feels like. And granted, I could be wrong. It may not be the intention of the app, but I know for some people out there, that's likely what it turns into. How many people can I connect with in this time frame? How many connections can I have at the end of the year? Especially when you think about the LinkedIn folks who are taking their headlines, their bios, so on and so forth, and really playing like these crazy word games to try to figure out like, yo, what's going to stand out the most so somebody wants to connect with me? And it's storytelling, right? LinkedIn is like storytelling for professionals. That's kind of what that is in that sense. And I think that's a big thing to notice. And again, still that gamification piece of trying to get as many connections as possible based off of how you're wording and setting up your profile to stand out on the platform. Maybe that's something that needs to be talked about a bit more. Is that instant gratification of social media platforms and social media apps were online spaces that gets people to stay and gets people to continue to engage in what's happening in that place.